SeleCT, yeah, he kind of phased out for a little bit, probably I would say half a year. IdrA, we know he hasn't been playing, or I shouldn't say playing, he hasn't been producing the results that he really has been wanting to. He's lost so many different show matches and series, and it's kind of unfortunate because I feel like IdrA has become that player. It's like, oh, are you good? Well, have you beaten IdrA? If you've beaten IdrA, then yeah, you're good. But he's kind of that stepping stone now, rather than the person that.
That's actually a good point.
That's been making waves.
Yeah, he's IdrA used to be Diablo, but now he's kind of like the Butcher in Act 1 for now. But you know, IdrA, I mean, if you read his or hear his interview from ESFI, he's on his pathway to improving still in StarCraft 2. And IdrA's actually doing pretty well in NASL. He's currently 2-1. And of course, people are like, how is he 2-1 in week 6? He has one of his matches rescheduled, and he also had a bye. So after this week, he can determine if he moves up. Because if IdrA wins this clean 2-0, he vaults himself into the top 3 of the division. And same thing with SeleCT. If he wins this, he also escalates himself in the division as well. Both these players are tied in points. So it's extremely important for both of them to get this win. But without further ado, let's introduce our players. Starting in the top right, we have the green player from Evil Geniuses, IdrA, who is, I think you said you picked him, right, for this series?
Yeah, I think, well, we'll go into the styles a little bit later on, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. And this guy proxying a second Bearish, this isn't the first time we saw it today on Dual Sight. He is SeleCT from Team Dignitas, who, of course, is going for 2 racks. People, we've seen this already with Cats versus Alive and how it turned out last time. And IdrA doesn't actually see that. His scouting overlord did not catch it.
His first drone is going over here. Oh. And he misses it just by a hair. You can see the obviously the barracks right over there, but he doesn't want to send his drone all the way over. Yes, he sees the first Marine, so that'll be a great indicator to know that he has to start ferrying some units over. And look at that. Very nicely done. Sending 3 drones to make sure that Marine is pushed back as much as possible. He's gaining a lot of space. He needs to put down a spine crawler, though, to really solidify this position. And this is, again, it's late, just like Cats is.
Yeah, this is not going to be very good if IdrA lets this happen any further. He has a lot of Zerglings, though, and that spine crawler seems to be getting up pretty nicely. SeleCT, is he really going to commit to this? He still has a couple Marines in transit here, but looks like SeleCT's just going to cancel and reset up here further away from the hatchery. Yeah,
the big difference from Alive versus Cats in this game is the fact that Alive brought additional SCVs with this push. SeleCT opted not to, so it's a little unfortunate. But let's go into predictions really quick after all of the dust is settled.
Yeah, looks like he's just going to move up the spine crawler at this point. He's going to pressure the SCV with that new queen range. IdrA's very happy about that, and you can see the bunker still incomplete. But same follow-up from SeleCT, 2 additional command centers. And this is sort of a hybrid of what Alive did in game number 2 on Daybreak with his 2 racks and Dual Sight.
I do want to mention, you see the times on those command centers. I clicked it earlier, but if you saw those times, how similar they are. And that's something that I've been very critical about SeleCT. His macro is not his strong suit. And I think if IdrA just defends against everything SeleCT can throw at him, and keep in mind that IdrA knows his opponent's style, so he knows to try to defend, then he will out-macro his opponent and just have too much stuff. I think if SeleCT goes into just the middle of mid-game, that sounds weird. There is an early stage of mid-game, there's a middle, there's an end. If he goes into the middle of mid-game, I think IdrA will have a gigantic advantage. He already is starting off with a pretty big advantage, having so many more drones than his opponent. 31 to 20, that is a 50% increase in drones over his opponent. That's quite substantial at this early game stage, Frodan.
Yeah, very, very big. But at the same time, you never know. Don't underestimate the power of triple orbital. But at the same, you can see that SeleCT, he's going to just go everything up normal. He's getting his double gases and able to really play defense. Now, Dual Sight's an interesting map because taking the 3rd can be a little tricky. We've seen Terrans in the past go for the traditional, but sometimes even move up towards the middle left position depending on how the expansions actually play out. But I'm curious, like, do you think this triplet orbital style command is good on dual site? A lot of people sometimes say that establishing the third could be pretty hard.
I would say it's not that strong. What you're basically going to do is sit back a lot longer, probably a minute or 2 minutes longer than you should be with a lot of pushes. So you sit back a little bit longer, and on top of that, you also don't have the capabilities of pushing out to get your third. A lot of times you want to get a lot of position off of 2 bases, and you want to go and start attacking your opponent. You don't even have that option because I feel like IdrA will be able to push his creep spread so far down because of the inactivity of SeleCT. So this single command center, I think, hurts him so much. Not only that, he mines out a lot faster because he actually mines faster, which seems like, how is mining faster bad? It actually, I think, is in this particular matchup on this map, just because I think a lot of this map relies on timings and hitting relative to your opponent's third base.
Yeah, the faster you mine out means the faster you kind of have to expand further out into the map. Now, on some maps, that may not matter if it's a easy fourth base, like Daybreak, you know, compared to a harder fourth base secure like on Antigua, or dual site in this case. But we see that SeleCT, he's just going to do his patented kind of aggression thing just with faster orbitals and get his economy up easier. IdrA, he's been saying that he's been favoring a lot of Infestor style in ZVT, trying to stay away from mutas. You can see his lair is just starting, pretty standard time here, but getting his double Evo Chamber and speed. So very typical of standard play. The only thing, though, is that IdrA says that he's not that sharp on controlling Infestors compared to where he wants to be, and that might play a huge factor, especially against a player like SeleCT, who's non-stop aggression in your face.
Yeah, and I think Infestors are definitely a unit that, in the right hands, just look fantastic, but the minute you mess up, you know, all of that fantastic play actually gets like, oh my god, I can't believe you did that. It is quite difficult. You
either look like a genius or you look completely stupid with that. But look at these Zerglings running by the net, just picking off this refinery. And that's an interesting thing to target. No direct damage done, just I guess implied mineral damage with the repair.
Well, he's trying to draw units out to see composition. It could be mech still, as we can see. IdrA hasn't actually scattered his opponent's base out. He does see the third orbital command center. That's pretty important. This should be the obvious time for IdrA. Just start saturating this third base and push out. Just, if he doesn't mind at all. If SeleCT wants to play his game, he's so happy, right? Because IdrA is known as playing these macro games and doing it so well.
You don't say.
Known for
doing macro. Now IdrA, when he sees the third, might have an opportunity to try to deny a little bit of mining time, or at least just threaten it. He has the Zerglings in position, but nothing really able to do there. You can see that SeleCT getting into a pretty good position defensively. And IdrA's gearing up a lot of Zerglings, in fact, for this third.
He might try to bust this really quickly. And there he is.
Yeah, he's going to go for it. And the Marines stim instantly with the second the SCVs get in there. And some splash damage on the Marines and make sure that a lot of them die. But SeleCT reinforcements should be able to clean up the rest. But again, IdrA got what he wanted to deny mine time, but he sacrificed lots of lings. But I think that's okay.
Yeah, I like that trade. Zerglings for any amount of gas is great. And the gas in that fight was the siege tank, of course. And the siege tank count being low actually empowers a lot of banelings and your infestors as well. You can actually get in there.
That's true.
And do whatever. So very, very well played by him. We have a Viking over here. I thought it was a medevac. But looks like IdrA will look to take his fourth base as well in the top left. But here we go, another push.
And IdrA's going to go for two-prong attack, pressuring the Marines back at the natural while attacking the third. Now, the tank's in a pretty good location in terms of being further back, forcing the Lings to kind of be out of position, not even getting the tank. As you can see, IdrA is going to retreat. Nonetheless, IdrA has everything else pretty good back at home. By putting so much pressure, SeleCT hasn't been able to go out for drops as he normally likes to. Now, he finally is loading up his medevacs out into the field. But IdrA has enough infestors that if he can catch sight of the drops anywhere, he should be able to stop it. Yes.
And that'll be very difficult for SeleCT to be too strong with this, because it's not even like SeleCT is ahead in economy. I think a lot of people would say he's behind. 74 harvesters, 74. So the mules do help. But just the fact that IdrA has had his expansion for so much longer and had his 6 gas for so much longer is a big advantage for him. Now, this is a style I love with IdrA. He actually has burrowed Zerglings all over the place. And he makes sure that he has it zoned out, so he always knows where his opponent is. As you can see, these Zerglings and Infestors are moving on over here. And he actually did this exact style to me when I played him on ladder. And my god, I mean, it almost feels like he has a map hack.
It essentially is. You can see the entire map. We hop onto the vision of IdrA. You can see that everything short of the base and the center towers he has vision of. He cleans up very easily, fungling and catching the rest of the units. IdrA looking very sharp thus far. You can see he's already preparing transition to Ultralisks.
Yes.
Very standard.
I think that's actually a better transition than Broodlords at this point. The main reason for that is there's no great transition into Broodlords if you do go Broodlords. There's a lot of times with timing. At least Zergling Ultra, you have those upgrades. You have that investment in there. So you don't have this huge lull where, you know, if I have 5 Broodlords, it's not really that efficient. I need that count to be up more. But now that I have these Ultras out, I can have a pretty good trade, keep my Infestors alive, and then go to Broodlords. That's a much more efficient way to tech into that Hive tech.
It's just quick because +2/+2 just started, and IdrA's been really on top of that. I mean, you can see that he's trying to line up a bunch of timings accordingly, but Ultras will be out before they can even get 5-3 when they're truly scary. SeleCT already has +2 done for his infantry as well. Now the fourth denial is actually pretty key because SeleCT will start running really dry and he'll be on 2 base economy, allowing him probably 2 maxes, and then he's going to have to really search for another base. SeleCT's going to move up to the left side of the map though, and IdrA really needs to shut this down. His Infestor trying to see if they can go for up the ramp for a flank. SeleCT not sieged up, but he's going to fungal the siege tank, preventing them from being able to get in position. But SeleCT has a high ground for now, so IdrA has to give up this base here.
Evacuates. I don't think the third really is under any serious threat. Zerglings are just going to run in, poke, and see if they can do anything whatsoever. Of course they can't. You know, IdrA is in kind of a tough position because he doesn't have his Ultras just yet, but 7 are about to pop. And there we have it. Finally able to stabilize a little bit here and clean up this push. But he still needs good positioning. Where does he actually go with the Ultras? Where are they? They're all scattered.
They are by the Overlord clumps. They're just kind of gathered. Now, IdrA has a flank prepared. Oh, this is going to be very beautiful if IdrA can get the right fungals to keep the units in place. SeleCT doing this push here, very spread out, but he's not paying attention to the back. The Zerglings trying to see if they can go for a flank. The Ultras are getting in front as well with the Infestors fungling everything perfectly for IdrA. Will it be enough to hold off the Terran army? And it looks like SeleCT's running out of units. You can see the fungals covering everything, but looks like SeleCT still has a couple of Marines left, and the Fungal should be able to finish it off. A very nice defense, but the reinforcements of SeleCT is what's going to be scary here.
Yep, the reinforcements are so strong at this point, but being constantly fungled down. He has kept a lot of his Infestors, but he can't lose them right here. Wow. Oh, wow. He's losing a ton of Infestors. Ultras will pop just in the nick of time. He does have 4-2 against 2-2, it looks like. And there it is. SeleCT will be cleaned up finally.
Yeah, but
wow, he took some pretty, or excuse me, IdrA took some pretty serious losses there. Now what SeleCT needs to do is just compose himself, try to get his 4th base, and then attack again and deny his opponent's 4th base. But he's actually rallying so many units into the center of the map, he might not be able to stabilize here. Frodan, I think SeleCT is killing himself.
Yeah, I mean, if you obviously send your units on move command, you could always make a case for that. But SeleCT's base in the bottom right has been discovered because IdrA had a burrowed Zergling there, and he realized that that's going to be a priority. SeleCT immediately lifting off, though. And the big thing, though, is that SeleCT really has been able to keep the gas count of IdrA in check. He had a lot of Ultralists, had a lot of Infestors, and you can see IdrA only has a few left of each, despite him pumping out a lot of units initially. And these Infestors are very vulnerable, too. Look at them. They're still trailing in the orange health area. So that's going to make them very vulnerable. Just one tank shot will kill them. So IdrA has to be very meticulous in his control, otherwise risk losing the most important aspect of his army. He's going to go for a try-attack. Ultra's coming from the north, the east, and the northeast, trying to see if they can go for fungals as well. But SeleCT has a pretty strong line of defense, and these Ultras are clumping perfectly for the tanks.
Ooh, nice fungal growth, though. And will he? Yes, he gets the continuation fungal on. The Medivacs kills 3 of them.
Very key.
His command center, oh, it lifts off in the perfect time.
Whoa, sick bait as he's able to lift off just in time, making sure the command center doesn't die. That was well done by SeleCT.
Yes, and additional Zerglings and Ultras are on the way out. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't been able to really situate that top left-hand side base. No. Now, one thing I do want to say is IdrA probably would be a lot better getting just a couple of Banelings each round. Banelings are actually really good because you need that burst damage. Here we go again. You can see the Zerglings on the left-hand side really don't do much. And once a planetary fortress is established there, it's very hard to actually move forward, or excuse me, to move on to that. You need a really big advantage if all those units are over there. So I think IdrA will have to play some sort of movement game if you want to start to work at that planetary fortress. And it's something that he hasn't been doing. He's just looking to bust a position. And if a Terran knows that's coming, well, obviously it's very easy to defend.
Yeah, and you know, IdrA's very discouraged from doing any counterattack because of that sensor tower. Normally you would see a lot of Zerg, Stong, Regu, Violet love doing counterattack styles, but IdrA's gonna go for another huge flank, and this could be a defining moment as a huge stim from Select and a fungal on already weak units, but IdrA's Ultras are falling to the might of the Terran army. You can see +3 Marauders absolutely devastating the Ultralist in a heartbeat. IdrA's fourth base is now exposed and very vulnerable to an attack as IdrA trying to see if he can fungal and reduce the amount of effectiveness of the bio, but is it going to be enough to hold it off as Select is relentlessly being aggressive against IdrA's expansion?
Very impressive macro from Select this whole game. I'm actually really surprised that he's been able to keep up, if not exceed, IdrA's macro. That's really cool to watch because, you know, all along we've seen Select to have pretty big problems. I mean, his match versus Alive was definitely a little bit of testimony to that. But here we go. IdrA is going in for the counterattack finally into the natural third location. But he gets intercepted very easily. And there he goes. IdrA does his GG.
So Select takes game number 1 on dual site. And Select playing very well just from start to finish. It was a good 2 racks defense from IdrA to start things off, and people can make a case, you know, like IdrA was able to drone up very comfortably. After that, where was the drop from Select? Every drop that he tried to do was shut down immediately, and IdrA had all map presence. You see burrow Zerglings everywhere. So what went wrong for IdrA, Andre? Break it down for us.
I think the flanks are a little bit weak in that last match. The top left-hand engagement, I think he lost way too much than he should have. Also, I do want to mention that he was very far behind in upgrades. I thought 2-2 would have been worked on and 3-3 would have been started at least for that second push, but IdrA actually forgot to or something along those lines. It's unfortunate.
That's tough.
I think there were a series of mistakes that IdrA did in that game to lead him towards that. Another big thing. Another big thing. Infested Terrans. He should have popped Infested Terrans to initiate battles rather than...
I'll tank a lot of initial damage.
Yeah, to tank a lot of the initial damage from the siege tanks. And then you enter with all your units and your Zerglings won't die instantly. So that's one thing. And the other thing, what was I think? Upgrades. There was one more thing that I can't think of. He didn't play the movement game. I don't know. It'll come to me probably during the break.
No worries. So, guys, as Andre contemplates that, we'll do a little deeper analysis when we come back. For now, we want to thank iBuyPower, the people with the pre-assembled PCs. Go to iBuyPower.com to pick up your own. We'll be back with game number 2 between Select versus IdrA. We'll find out who's going to move up in the division or who's going to fall right after this.